Hey kids, none of those sounds were real. I mean, they were, real sounds, but none of those sounds were really real. Orchestra, piano, all made artificially. Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for dropping by. It is Saturday morning here in the U.S., 9 o'clock on the West Coast. And you've noticed the last couple of weeks I've not had the quote, official opening. In part because just some different stuff happened, and also in part, I wouldn't say lazy, just a lot of stuff happening up until the last minute. It's been a very, very couple of strange weeks. Yep, I've started a little bit early, do a little bit of music in there, but I wanted to kind of get the point across. I had something else planned for this morning, and I'd been working on editing an interview that I did a couple of weeks back with Seven Ravenwolf, and still plan to do that. Again, because it was recorded with Skype, the levels are sort of all over the place, and I wanted to fix that. I was hoping to do it with an algorithm kind of automatically, but it really works better if I do it by hand, and that's taking a long time. So I realized I wasn't going to get done today, or in time for today. But the last few days, I've seen some things in social media, and I know you should never look at social media, and certainly, for God's sake, don't read the comment section. But I did. And what I'm seeing is, well, I think it concerns all of us, right? We are all concerned about the things that we see around us, but also it's not just those wool-wearing folks that concern me. There is, well, let's start here. Good morning, everybody. Let's do it. Let's do it this way. Hey, Voynich, Allison, Brian Stavely in the house. Man, you're the best. That's right. Kelly F.E., Conspiracy Becomes Reality. Janet Gunther, Winston, Sue Finelli, of course. Love you, Sue. Informally Hip. Dawn is here. Looks like the whole crew's shown up. So again, my favorite usual suspects. So as I was kind of considering what's going on, I noticed that everybody has a different reaction to what's going on around them. That's to be expected, right? We're all a little bit different. And but I see one of the primary things that I see happening is an emotionally charged reaction. People get very angry, right, or very sad. But angry is a big one that we see. And this was actually one of the things that I had noted early on, which was one of the ideas that led me directly into doing the Awakening Project, which was I had noticed through observation that people become extremely, extremely upset over certain topics. And it's not just cognitive dissonance. I mean, we can see cognitive dissonance occur, and we can see people become uncomfortable, and their eyes blink a couple of times, and you can see that the wheels kind of turn, and then the hamster dies, and and they go back to their regularly scheduled programming. But there are a few topics, among them shape of the earth. I think Brian's also found out that the Mandela effect can probably do this. There are a few topics that people completely wig out on. They go nuts. And when I was very first looking into the idea that the Earth might not be the way it was described to us, just the first couple of days, I was dealing with looking at the properties of light and refraction. I mean, I already knew a pretty good deal about it. I worked in, again, using physics and applied physics, wave propagation, that sort of stuff. And when you're around doing it in the entertainment industry, lights is a big thing. You know what lighting is about, and the inverse square law and how that works with both lighting and sound and a variety of different things. It's just a part of what I do. But I had seen a couple of videos that had me scratching my head. For example, high altitude balloon footage, which seemed to indicate a close and local sun, especially with a specular highlight that could not be explained with a almost 900,000 mile diameter sun that was 93 million miles away, without even thinking about the fact that it's supposed to be a gas in the middle of a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum. Again, this is not the purpose of this of my topic this morning, but simply that I was like, what? And I didn't, I was in a little cognitive dissonance myself. I didn't want to believe that. Certainly, the implications of what it might mean to reject the prevailing and dominant scientific explanation, supposedly. for where we live. And so I asked a buddy of mine, who's a fairly bright guy, and I said, hey, I know I'm missing some math here, right? I'm not carrying the one or something like. And I was like, why can we see too far? That's the first one I approached with him. And he, like, immediately the veins on his forehead started popping and his blood pressure went through the roof. I mean, he turned almost purple and his hands clenched and he goes, "You mean flat Earth?" I was like, whoa, dude, ease up, man. What? Like, I'm not saying that. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on. And that was an indication that doesn't, those things don't go together, right? So one of the things I learned doing counseling is that when you have an emotional response that is out of sync with the information or the data surrounding you, the circumstances don't warrant that, then typically it's a result of some sort of traumatic stress. And that's, deep down inside, it's unresolved trauma. And we re-experience that trauma whenever the trigger comes. But it's not just the trigger, right? You're re-experiencing your memory of it tied to a previous memory when you experienced it with a memory and so on and so forth. It snowballs until it gets out of control, until sometimes somebody can say just a word and it throws you, they call it pushing your buttons, is what we used to call it. Somebody really knows how to push my buttons. And that is just an unresolved trigger. And people who are emotionally abusive and gaslighting, and we certainly, we've seen, I think, parents do this, and people in relationships or bosses, people who have control over others, they use these as a psychological manipulation tool to push people's buttons, right? And to make them seem crazy because they know that they say something or even give them a particular look, it will cause the person to have an unwarranted emotional response. And when done in a social setting, they seem crazy to people who don't know what the backstory is. And so they can use that to discredit, right? Make the person seem crazy. And this is one of the things that we're seeing profoundly shown in the media currently with people who do not accept the story that we're given about a particular pandemic with a bug, the beer bug, and what's required to save us all, right? Certainly the math doesn't add up. The numbers that they're using are clearly fraudulent, even by their own admission. They're miscounting, multiple counting, using unscientific, invalid test results or test formats. And even numerous stories of people sending in, stuff from a goat or pawpaw or even blank unused swabs and getting a positive test result back. So we see the variety of these things. And of course, we don't accept their narrative, especially from people who are proven liars. Those of us who are in this community, we certainly know that pretty much everything that they present to us is fraudulent. But again, you try to convince somebody outside of our camp that is the case. And again, they will go nuts on you. And not only will they go nuts, but then they've reinforced by the mainstream media, who puts out multiple, not just op-eds, but supposedly peer-reviewed scientific journals, abstracts, that say those of us who do not accept their story, and whatever that is, just insert mask wearing or the nature of the bug or even political setups are valid. Those people are crazy. They're narcissistic. They're selfish. Mentally unstable, and at times even dangerous. And so they're certainly creating an atmosphere of intense program toward those who do not follow their narrative. What's more, of course, we see that divide and conquer has certainly been a tool for I'll never want to call them elites, right? They are simply those who have taken control of things, but they have used the Hegelian dialectic and a divide and conquer strategy since time immemorial to keep people focused on one another and using certain basic psychological tools to keep people in line. These include our need to be in a group, right? We need to be, since they broke down the family, this is what, for example, we see manifesting itself with gangs, especially, teen people, teen in gangs because they need a family, they need acceptance. And we know through for example, I mean, the guy was nuts himself, but Maslow's postulations of the concentric circles and concentric rings of your needs, that you cannot even realize a need until the most basic needs are satisfied. So, in other words, you don't care about a Ferrari if you have nothing to eat. And in fact, you're not even worried about anything to eat if you can't breathe. Right? I hate to use that expression, but if you have no oxygen, which is an immediate need, you can't even think about being thirsty, right? And so as each of these more basic needs are satisfied, then you can realize additional needs until they become wants. Well, one of the most basic needs, even before love, is acceptance, because if you don't feel accepted, then the love becomes a false paradigm. And so humans need to be accepted by others. We have this need for it, as well as love. And we also have needs for community. We were built to be in relationships. And so this is one of the reasons that I find the current mandates so just horrific and inhuman, which is to separate people and to cover their faces so you can't read microexpressions. We know what this does. We've talked about it before. That we have, the Crystal Robin New Age folks. Not to offend anybody. It's kind of funny. I mean, I poke fun at myself, right? Because I'll beat others to the punch, right? I'm an easy target. But the point being that New Age has called it for a long time your aura. Right, but it is an electromagnetic field that is measurable, that surrounds the body. It's a combination of factors and features, including your heart, which is about 60 times more intense than what your brain puts out in terms of the electromagnetic field. And we have what's called the gut, or the belly brain. It has more neurotransmitters in it than anywhere else except for the brain itself. And so we can, again, it's been proven that we send and receive electromagnetic signals out into our environment in about a 3-foot radius. So double that's 2 people, that's 6 feet. That's how far they want to keep us apart. And these are both mask wearing and physical separation have been used as torture techniques. I mean, they know what they're doing. This is not, you need to be needed, Allison? Well, I do. Honestly, I need you guys here, right? Or I don't do this. I mean, it's not about my ego. It's what it is entirely about is try to give back and be of value to this community. I have found such an amazing tribe within this community, and I'm so honored again to be a part of it and to share what my observations are, right? And try to keep us together because as they're trying to tear us apart. And I know one of the big factors from doing the Awakening Project and having people send in their stories of their journey and the awakening process is isolation, that we feel very isolated and alone because everyone around us thinks we're crazy. Right? There are very few who are fortunate enough to have people in their lives, family, friends, or significant others who are on board with, even a part of what they see. It is literally like living in an upside down world where, they live is a great example of that, where you put on the glasses and you simply cannot see it without those glasses. And so we find ourselves isolated and alone. And this is a great place for us to meet and to fellowship with one another. And several people, especially on my Sunday shows, which are a little bit more spiritual themed, people often say it's like being at church, in a virtual space. And that's exactly what it is to me. So joining and meeting with you folks here weekly is, again, the highlight of my week. And I do it as sort of my gift to you. Right. This is certainly I don't do it for the money. I mean, the channel was recently monetized. Woo! And I've had a couple of people, let me know that they get pretty aggressive because I demonetized all the Sunday stuff because I just don't feel right about putting monetary stuff on that topic. And even this topic, again, I'm not just, I've heard many people like, oh, you're people selling the truth or whatever. That's not the point, right? It's just so we can continue to do these things. It does take a substantial amount of time, about 10 to 15 hours a week, depending on what I'm doing at a minimum, and sometimes more to do this, as well as, the materials and stuff to do it. I had to get a new computer and all that sort of stuff. Again, always the sort of details of money, not talking about that at all. I'm just saying that while the channel's monetized, they get pretty aggressive in putting ads in it, right? Like there was like ads every 4 minutes or some crazy thing. And so I had to go in there and manually take all those out. So that's again, but other than, I mean, besides that, I think make like $13 for last month or some kind of crazy stuff. It's not for the money, but again, it's something that I like to do, and again, my wife is on board with it, even though she's not necessarily 100% on all the stuff that the way that I see things. She certainly supports what I do in terms of that she sees that it's of value to me. Right, it's cathartic for me to spend time with you guys and to better understand the world around us, and to better understand each of you and our journeys, and to primarily understand what it is that they're doing to us, what they've done. I think we outlined it pretty well in this last week's Secret of Saturn episode, talking about mesmerism with Wayne McCroy and Jason Lingren and Crow 777, talking about the process of what the history of mesmerism and kind of what it is. And I'll be talking a bit more about that as the days go by, and we fill in some of the gaps here. I'm trying to collate all the data from the first round, phase 1 of the Awakening Project, so I can kind of put it in a format that you can better understand what I'm looking at, right, in the way that I see it. That there are specific aspects of people that make it more likely that they would be open to seeing things in a different light, and that's what's required to be able to awaken and break out of a spell, because it ultimately is a spell. It's a hypnotic spell, a trance that people have been put into through what I call full spectrum programming. It's a wide variety of things, but of which television is a central tool. It's certainly it's not called television programming for nothing. Who wrote that paper? What, the one from last Wednesday? That was me. I wrote that. It's just show notes. I was just covering stuff, and I wrote it in November of last year as something to cover, and we ended up doing something else, but it became particularly relevant when we see some of those things come into exact play in the current scenario. So what I wanted to touch on today, again, is things that I see around us, right? That there is, certainly I think we all agree that we live in an age of deceit, that there is almost nothing that we have been taught as being truth that is actually a lie, from the nature of the place that we live in, to our history, to who we are as individuals, as beings, and what we are. And I would say more so, the reason why is not just to confuse us and keep us off our feet and off our balance, but they are afraid of us. We have the power, and they don't want us to know that. So again, the way I see it, and again, this is my speculation. It's not something I can empirically prove with science, although there are elements of it that can be empirically proven. And this is just based to, kind of an abductive reasoning and taking a look at the overall thing and the preponderance of evidence. But what it appears to me is that the nature of this place that we occupy is such that it was designed, and yes, made by a creator, but it was designed to manifest our will in the same way, like we were a mini-me. He made us in his own image. And the way that he spoke things into existence, that's when he said, "Let there be light." And there was. It was designed to follow our intention and to do to manifest our desires and our intention. And that has been largely taken from us for a variety of reasons. Both at the deluge, things broke, right? Things broke at the fall of man, but there, over time, right? Things are such now that we've been told that is nonsense, right? The ideas of magic and manifesting a will is just poppycock. But throughout history and all the myths and tales speak of this, and certainly we see evidence of it even currently. You can see it in your own life that you can manifest these things, and we would I would encourage you. In fact, that's one of the things that I want to do, is encourage us to get together and specifically focus on and manifest something positive. But we can see that we are surrounded with a world of lies, and they lied about not just a few things, but everything. Everything is a lie. Everything I look into is at best misdescribed. There's bits and pieces of truth everywhere, and that's to be certain. But for the most part, the way that it's presented is fraudulent. And as such, it becomes more and more difficult, with that being the case, to not, stick out like a sore thumb. I mean, my wife refers to me as a serial truth teller. that I always will be honest, even when it would serve my seemingly serve my interests better to not do so, right? Whether it's, lying about taxes or any of that sort of stuff. I don't. And the reason came, a long time ago, again, when I was preparing to do the counseling thing. One of the things that was the most terrifying to me was the idea of being transparent. I wasn't, like a, compulsive liar or anything, but I had my very well honed marketing PR version of my history and who I was, the 30-second elevator pitch. And it was accurate, but it wasn't necessarily true. It presented things in the best light. This is sort of the way people tend to do when they're dating, right? They don't want to put the dirty stuff out there first, right? So they always put it in its best possible light. And again, this is common. People do this, but I had again, I guess you would say a certain awakening in terms of being transparent. It was the most terrifying thing I could imagine, to be absolutely honest about things. And what I discovered very early on was that it did not cause the damage that I imagined. And for the first 3 or 4 years, it actually all the time worked out to be the perfect management of life, was simply to be honest and to tell the truth about even some very difficult and uncomfortable things. But there's a difference, of course, between transparency and full disclosure. There are boundaries. People don't need to know everything, right? I mean, but I always say that I'm an open book. But there are, sometimes I might say, well, why do you want to know? Right? What for what purpose? Because there are things that probably aren't other people's business, so that there's healthy boundaries there. But one of the most freeing things was to become transparent. Now, I said that for the first 3 or 4 years, there have been a couple of times where people take advantage of that and try to use that not only for their purposes, but against you, to break you down when you're honest about things. But I still find the value of being honest. A clean conscience is the best pillow. And I sleep, pretty much like a baby. Again, my wife would tell you, I have no trouble falling asleep whatsoever. But I have also found that when you are different than those around you, you stick out like a sore thumb. And oftentimes people are very uncertain what to do with someone who's brutally honest with them. Oh, hey, Trey, thank you so much, man. It's so very kind. And welcome. And again, welcome to everybody who's joined since we've started. Today's topic, of course, PoppyCock, Balderdash, and Codswallop, right? Living truthfully in an age of deceit. The more, again, you wear the cloak of truth, the more you stand out from everyone who is lying. I mean, we know that everyone carries a mask, literally now, but a facade that is the face that they want others to recognize. And I have often said it's not what I think that matters or what you think that matters, but for most people it's what I think you think that matters, right? Because again, with that need for acceptance, we look for others till we get acceptance, and so we continue to change our behavior until we get the feedback from them that we're being accepted. That little imperceptible nod, that bit of feedback that we see, that we get approval, right? So we want to get the cheese, and we'll do all kinds of dances to get the cheese. Ultimately, even if the other person's motives are good, you end up becoming their image of you rather than who you really are. And often it is the case that their motives are simply to get what they want. And so what they want for you is to serve them. And so you do that, and that's the only way you're going to get their approval, is to serve them. I think that's certainly clear in the current case with our government, right? The only way to get to please them is to just do what they say. And I'm sorry, that's not consistent with what the Creator made you to be. One of my most profound experiences directly with the Creator was having them say to me, all I'm trying to do is to make you into the person I originally made. And I have to strip away all these parts of you that I didn't make, the self-made man, the things that you were proud of. They're basically unhealthy coping mechanisms to help get you through. And these I didn't make that, and I can't use that. And the only reason it hurts when I do this is because you don't want to let it go. Ouch. the difficult part about this relationship, right, is that there's only one of us that's perfect, and it's not me. And so they are always right. And so I have to kind of adjust to that. But certainly that is very true, that we all they want to do is to turn us into the person, the beautiful creation that they made. And most of us have no experience with what real love is. We only see it modeled poorly from people who don't know what it is. And again, many of those are intentionally harming others to get what they want. And fear is the biggest driver of behavior. And so if you've been at all to my Sunday morning stream, which is it's entitled "Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World," I cover stuff in largely the Bible, and not because I hold its authority over anybody else, but just to again, I accept it for being what it is, which is an invitation to be in relationship with the Creator. There are flaws all over the place. I acknowledge and accept that. And it also can be interpreted in a bunch of different ways. And again, even Jesus acknowledged that. He asked a lawyer, what does the law say and how do you read it? All right. Understanding and acknowledging that we're going to see, each of us are biased, and we're going to have confirmation bias, and we're going to see what we want to see. And so people can pick and choose in just about anything, how they want that to read and how they're going to interpret it. And so again, from my perspective, I find the entire thing to be an invitation. It's an open invitation into a relationship. And then once you get into that relationship, all of it makes better sense. And you don't get bound up in that legalistic garbage, right, of like trying to interpret it and looking for loopholes. It's not about that. It's about the relationship, right? It's about what will encourage and advance that relationship. And moreover, that relationship with my Creator is primarily, again, it is about me. In other words, if it doesn't give me any information about anybody else, right? It's not your story. It's none of your business. Just work on you, right? You're still broken, and you need to be healed. And the primary way of doing that is through love. And love changes everything. And again, it was a profound moment for me when I had gone through several years, actually, of understanding that love was the key to all this, and trying to understand and define it. What is love? And I'd seen all kinds of definitions, from love as a choice, it's a decision. Of course, there's the love as an emotion, right? It is all these things. And when I finally came to understand that love is not a it's not a thing, it's not an idea, it's not a premise, it's not an emotion, it is a person. And that person to me is Dad. That is the very definition of love. And everything that they have ever done is driven by love. I've often said, again, that if love is not the motive, then God is not involved. And so it gave me a much better and profound and deeper understanding of what I read in Scripture and what I interpreted in the world as well, is that without a complete understanding of the entire situation, that some things could seem harsh or punitive, but they probably weren't, because that's not the person that I knew. And the person that I knew was entirely loving. And when you begin to find certain circumstances where you do have a bit more information, and you can see where what seemed like perhaps a difficult thing was in fact a loving response, and it made much better sense when the gaps were filled in. And I think that is probably, we'll find that to be true when we get to know him better. Again, that's my experience, is that the more information that I have, the better I understand, and the more loving the Creator is, because I understand it better. And so all I know from them is unmitigated, unrestricted, and unrestrained love. That is the entirety of what they have to offer, with discipline, of course, and with justice. But justice without mercy is, again, kind of a tyranny. So even when it is just and right, there is mercy. And this is why I see, at least my interpretation of why the Creator split himself into two aspects, of masculine and feminine. There is the justice and right, and there is also love and mercy. And they push and pull, and they look at different aspects of things, but they don't fight against each other. So ultimately, what I see is that, again, for those who work very hard on trying to keep rules or keep commandments and find that they cannot, and it's explicitly stated in Scripture that we cannot keep those commandments. We're bad at it. We're all broken. But when you understand that everyone's going to come short and not be able to fulfill those, the only way you can measure your success is by comparing to other people, and that makes you kind of a dick. A hypocritical asshole, which is what we see many, quote, Christians to be. They're live a life of, again, it's a religion. It has nothing to do with the relationship with the Creator. It is a religion. And as part of that religion, they're trying to keep a set of rules that they can't. And so in order to keep from having to acknowledge that they have failed, they simply say, well, I'm not as bad as that guy. Right? And Jesus himself had some very harsh words for that kind of behavior. And so the point I'm making is not to knock people down, right? But to help understand that it is, for me, a much more difficult proposition to the rules that Jesus himself laid down, were love the Lord with all your heart, all your mind, and all your strength, and love your neighbor like yourself, as yourself. And of course, the implication there that you must love yourself before you can love your neighbor. So this to me is a much more challenging proposition than it is trying to keep a set of rules. Don't kill anybody. Don't rob people. Don't lie. Those things can be probably done to some degree or another. But loving the unlovely, especially those who are your self-proclaimed enemy, is difficult. But again, when you spend time with the Creator to such an extent that they love you in spite of who you are, and call into being a you that doesn't yet exist, again, calling into being things that are not as though they were, treating you as though you are worthy of that love, even if your behavior says otherwise. It turns you into someone who wants to be, and then ultimately is worthy of that approbation and that love and acceptance. And it is remarkably transforming to be considered by the most beautiful, intelligent, creative, powerful being ever as someone worthy of loving. It is a powerful, transformative thing to have someone like that look at you in a way that says you're beautiful. And then you can better understand how those who are the most unlovely are so because they are so hurt, right? That hurt people. And they don't know anything else, and it is fear that drives them into taking what they're afraid they cannot have. And so we all know that we're broken, and therefore, in our minds, unworthy of love and acceptance. And so we're going to take from others what cannot be given, or we feel unworthy of. And so, as a result, we do all sorts of terrible things. And even if that is to make ourselves feel worthy by pushing other people down. And this is the nature of what we see in terms of trolls. Right? Their only delight, their only sense of self-worth is to make others feel miserable. And so they can compare themselves and see that they're better than that. Ultimately, it's empty. And so learning to have at least compassion for those people and understanding where they're coming from makes it easier to not be angry when they attempt to, and often do, harm you. And again, I began today, or at least what inspired today was seeing some things again on social media. It's, for example, here are the folks who, the mask holes, right? And they come out and there's, videos of them being angry at people for not wearing a mask, and stuff I've experienced even this last week without telling my story. Just again, they get angry and they, and here's their position. Well, if yours works, then why do I need to wear one? Well, I wear it for you. Okay, so you're wearing it out of care for me. And if I don't, I hope you die. I hope your whole family dies. Well, that doesn't seem very caring, does it? It's a logical inconsistency and one that they haven't even really thought through. But those things don't matter, right? They're simply trying to justify their own position. Again, from Scripture, it says that all the ways of a man are clean in his own heart, right? Clean in his own eyes. And so everyone justifies their own behavior as the ends justify the means. If only you knew, right? And this is one thing I wanted to get to today was, again, the words of Jesus, who said, it is from the abundance of a man's heart that come his works, right? From the overflow is another way to put it. It is what is inside you. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. It's what's inside you that finds its way out. And so those who are those miserable wretches, it's going to come out. They simply cannot help. No matter what they say, they do it out of care and compassion for others that they're doing this. But clearly that's not true when they want you to die. If you don't do what they say, right? It is about them. It is about them. And so our natural response then is, again, the best definition for anger. It's a powerful motivation to correct an injustice. And so here we see an injustice. They're unjustly accusing us of being a bad person or a virus, that we are a virus. And, we're going to somehow damage them by being too close to them. And so that seems unjust. And so our natural response is to want to get angry, and we want to push back and tell them how stupid they are and what idiots they are for simply following along like sheep, right? And we want to call them sheeple and maskals. I mean, we talk about this to each other, but I find it's very unhelpful to push back this way around others. And I see many posts from I would say those people, quote, on our side, right, who are very hateful toward those who don't or cannot see the truth. And we behave as though they're not worth saving or helping. And in many cases, again, it's understandable because they are acting in hideous, unthinkable ways. I'm not talking about the people at the top. I'm talking about the people around us, right? The people in our own families. And again, these shouldn't be a surprise. This is stuff that, again, Jesus, I'll go back to this. I'll go back to the Scripture because there's so much wisdom there. It's just there's so much truth in it, right? That people are going to they're going to, well, I guess the word I'm looking for here is they're going to be traitors. They're going to betray their own family, and they're going to be. They would put you to death, thinking that they're doing God a service. Right? That is the way that they are, and they think they're doing themselves and government a service by snitching on you because you're not doing what they have to do, because we're all in this together, and so. We get tempted, I think, to behave in the way that they do. And also, for example, here's the kind of touching back to the original premise of this video, which is that it is, for example, right, I use the medical exemption disclaimer for not wearing a mask. And it is, true. It's not really a lie. I do have a medical exemption, although I haven't gone to a doctor to do it. I'm allergic to stupidity. No, not really. I have my lungs were scarred from I know it's great because I smoke, right? But they were scarred a long time ago with a respiratory infection. They got really bad for a period of time, and I let it go. I was young and stupid, and it almost killed me. And so using that, I don't say it's an excuse, but they can't ask, right? So they don't have any right to ask legally. Again, I keep the state proclamation right there on my devices handy in case anybody. And it hasn't been any of the hardly anybody in any retail or public spaces has pushed back. Wants to say I have a medical exemption. They're fine with that. It's the maskals, right? It's the people around who are like, where's your mask? I had a guy this week. We're kind of standing in line. After a couple of minutes, he turns around and says, "Where's your mask?" And I was like, "Well, it's none of your business, really." And he kept going, "Where's your mask?" I'm like, if you must know, I have a medical exemption, and no, you can't ask about that either. It's none of your business. And he kind of kept going, and then, but all this, and he had a jacket pulled up over his mouth, and we kind of get up, and then we get inside, and he gets up to the thing and does his business. He turns around, and he's not even wearing one. He's using his jacket as as a covering. I'm like, what are you doing? You're giving me a hard time about not having a mask, and you don't have what? You were going to ask, where's my mask so you can take it from me? I mean, I don't even get it, right? And so it just makes me laugh in that case. I suppose I could have been angry, but I just laugh. It's like, what is going on in clown world here? Here's, I guess, the point of what I want to get to, right? Is that we're facing. It is easy again to want to, position ourselves and give a lot of explanation for why we're doing what we're doing, especially when we get poked at and pushed on by people around us, by the media, right? It seems as though at this point the whole world is against us, right? Everybody from every angle, all the news, media, everybody on television, all the newspapers, everybody on social media is saying what horrible people we are because we are. Was it a white jacket, Mark? No, but I feel you. A straight jacket? No, it should. He actually did say some very crazy things, and it's like he was off his meds that day. But again, as we, I have suggested numerous times that again, you find your line in the sand and you defend that, whatever that is for you. And again, it's not none of my business, and it's not up to me. I'm not going to tell you what you should or should not do. These are pieces of advice that, right, it would be good so you don't get surprised or have to make a decision under duress, because that's where they want you, in fear. When you're in a state of fear and panic, you can't make good decisions, and so you're very easy to manipulate and to influence, and the power of suggestion works really well. Well, why do you think that's what fear porn is about in the news? Right, so these things all make sense, and if you look very closely, you can see that these things do not happen by accident. They are very, very well planned out, and it works exceptionally well. But we see that the world is against us, and it is easy to feel isolated and alone, and to begin to feel kind of persecuted. And I noticed this, and again, no offense to anybody, I'm not bashing anybody's beliefs or anything, but I lived in Salt Lake City for a period of time, and that's like the mothership for Church of Latter-day Saints. I know them as Mormons, and the Mormons often feel persecuted, as they did when they left Missouri, and they said that they left Missouri for religious persecution. Well, they're not telling you the part where Joseph Smith, their leader, before he got strung up, that he had told them that the other people, since they were basically apostate, they didn't have any right to anything, so they were well within their rights to go take all their stuff, take their land, burn them out of their homes, and kill them. And so many of his followers did just that. They went and ransacked and went looting and just took people's stuff. And so it's the only time that the National Guard or the military had actually been called out to solve a situation, a domestic situation. So the governor called out the army, and so they put an end to that and kicked the Mormons out because they'd done this nonsense, because they felt like they had every right to do that. Because they were, God's chosen people. So they claim persecution. Well, they do the same things now. When I have seen few places that I've lived in a number of places, and everywhere I've lived, there are things I love and things I did not like, and people are. Especially of that religion, seem to be very asshole drivers. I'll just put it that way. They think they're gods already. They're going to get their own planet when they die, so they're just going to take advantage of it now. They're a god, and they can do whatever they want, including cutting you off in the freeway and doing all this stuff. Well, when you push back, right, and you call them out for their behavior, suddenly you're Mormon bashing. Right? I had no idea what religion you were, except for it kind of made sense because of the way your behavior. So I'm not calling you out for being a Mormon. I'm calling you out for being an asshole. See, the same thing, for example, when there are politicians who do a certain thing, and then the press will criticize them because, you can't call that person out because they identify LGBT. I'm not calling them out for that. I'm calling them out because they're being an asshole. They're doing something they shouldn't do. But they play whatever card they can. Oh, you're persecuting me. And so it is easy, again, I think, to feel persecuted because it is unjust. We are being unjustly and falsely accused of all kinds of things, from being domestic terrorists to being selfish to being uncaring. And in fact, I know few people who are more caring than those of us in this community, right? We take care of one another. And the reason we put up with all this nonsense is to try to tell other people so they don't get harmed by it. We see that there is danger coming, and like the Ezekiel 33 watchman on the wall, right? If you see danger coming and you don't tell them, their blood is on your hands. But if you do tell them and they don't respond, then at least your hands are clean. Right? So many of us respond to that. And the reason we put up with this nonsense is we try to tell other people in order to help them. And no good deed goes unpunished. And so they push back and do all kinds of, I've heard all kinds of terrible stories about what people did, right, as a response. And getting people fired, right? Remember Brian Mullen? So anyway, the point that I want to get to here, right, is pretty much this, that you're going to stand out more and more. The more your beliefs differ from those around you, and they're all in a cult-like mentality, whether that is the far left or the far right or the Q group or whatever. Each of them are in their own kind of like cult-like behaviors, and you see this particularly on the left, but also on the right. So on the left, if you don't toe the line on every single thing, they're going to kick you out. On the right, if you, have all the kind of same conservative beliefs, but you don't really believe in Trump or politicians, are going to kick you out because you have to follow along with their party line, and if you don't, they're going to push you out. And that's one thing that I get nervous about in our community. I do see this with some people who, if you don't buy their take on mud flood or Tartaria or whatever, they're going to, you're a shill, you're fake. Again, we all have to be convinced to our own satisfaction about these things. And but for the most part, I will say for the most part, that's one of the things I love about this group is we're all fairly open-minded and usually give each other the grace in the room to have, to investigate things themselves. And I think many of us have come to the understanding that you cannot lead people, you can't force people to open their eyes. They must find it on their own. And the best you can do is drop some seeds and hope to water those seeds and tend them. And when they begin to finally ask questions about, hey, what's going on, then you have a ready answer. That seems to be the best approach to it. But the point here being is the more your behavior differs from those around you, the more you're going to stand out. And it is going to be, I think, increasingly difficult to hide without lying, right? One of the reasons that many of us stand out in today's circumstances is because we are not afraid, right? There are people out there in terror. We have seen several videos. I think you've all seen them. The people who are just terrified if anybody encroaches within 10 feet of them. They just have a panic attack, right? It's like, why didn't you just stay home? If you're that afraid, you don't need to be out anywhere. And of course, it is their terror that makes them angry toward others. That you might get me sick, right? They're afraid. And it is their fear that makes them behave that way. And I've likened it to dogs, right? Dogs are some of the best critters out there, and they are just full of love. But the most dangerous ones are those who have been harmed, and they're afraid, and they will harm you. But it's not really the dog's fault, right? But you do have to be cautious of that and be wise. And so it makes sense to keep your eyes open and to have some awareness of what's going on around you. Again, there's a difference between transparency and honesty and full disclosure, right? Have good boundaries. But again, I would encourage you, I have no place to speak with authority. I can't tell you what to do. I can't tell you what is right or wrong. That is not my place. I can encourage you and tell you what I see, right? Is that from my perspective, again, a clean conscience is the best pillow. And ultimately, if you engage in the same behaviors as the other side, which is to push back with hatred and with sharp words, that it may not go well for you, right? You're just exacerbating the situation. And one of the best things that I've seen so far is, and one of the ways that I get asked questions in my personal life and people open up to it is that, again, I am not afraid. I have no fear of what's going on around me, and they know, those who know me know that it's not just stupidity and not being informed, right? It's not that I'm ignorant of what's happening around me, but I have the confidence because I'm not afraid. I'm not terrified of it, and I can go on my daily life, and I haven't changed really anything since this whole thing started, and so. I would encourage you, again, to be not afraid, right? And ultimately, these things are concerning. I'm not saying be Pollyanna and bury your head in the sand and go, everything's going to be fine. I'm not sure everything's going to be fine. I think things are going to be very difficult in the near future. That's what I see. Again, I'm not going to be Chicken Little and say the sky is falling, but it does seem like they're not pulling back from the brinksmanship that they've done. And it looks as if they're trying to really push toward the whole enchilada right now. And that would mean some very concerning things for those of us who value our freedom and our personal sovereignty, right? That we have the right to choose for ourselves what goes into our bodies and what comes out of our hearts. And so, in order to guard those things, again, here's a little word of wisdom from Scripture. Above all else, guard your heart, for from it flow the well springs of life. And so it is your heart that's going to make the difference here, I think, between falling into the same behaviors as those around you, where hatred, anger, fear drive you, and instead responding from a place of love, and then where you do not have fear, you are not afraid. It is only a matter of the heart that can do this. And from my perspective, again, it is only in the connection with the Creator that you can find the kind of love to fill you to that extent where you can stand up in the midst of this kind of fuckery, heinous fuckery, most foul, and stand up and not be afraid. And I have said, and again, not to drive any fear anywhere, but to say, if I am threatened with my mortal existence for not following these rules that are put in place, I mean, hey, don't threaten me with a good time. I'm tired, right? I mean, it's not that I'm looking to, punch my own time card or anything. And I feel like, again, in my relationship with the Creator, that He takes a dim view of that because this was a gift. He gives us life, and that is a valuable, ineffable gift. And what we do with that is we're kind of held accountable for that. But from my perspective, I'm going to do all the things as best I can to demonstrate the kind of love that they show for me toward others. And that's what I think they've asked of me. And again, I can't tell you what is being asked of you. That's between you and them. It's not my call. But I do think that's where to get the information is from the Creator. Is to find out what your purpose is. I've often kind of kidded around that sometimes it seems like my sole purpose is simply to serve as a warning to others. Don't be like that guy. Yeah, but no. So when it comes to being faced with this, I'm not afraid. I mean, I am not going to give up my integrity for any amount of money, for comfort, or even for mortal existence, because I think that from my perspective, those are the most important things. What does it profit a man if he gains the whole world and loses his own soul? I think that there is more to this life than just this life, and that as such, it's my responsibility to do whatever I can to fulfill the things and to become the person that I was made to be, to the best of my ability, which mostly is a result of staying in a relationship and tight and learning from and being teachable with the Creator. Right? It's not anything that I do. It's them teaching me and letting them work on me and taking that seriously. Beyond that, it's making those choices. And I find that it is observable that the choices we make become our character. It's the little things. It's not the big things. The big things just reveal the character. But it is the little choices that we make on a day-to-day process that defines who we are. Those little choices that we make. Do we compromise in the little things? Or do we stand firm in the little things? And when the big things come along, we easily step into it. And it's not, there's no question. And so for me, there is no question that I will behave a certain way under certain circumstances, because that's who I am and that's how I've trained myself to be. And I'm going to respond in a way that's honest and has integrity and it's consistent with what I know without having to think about it or worry about it. And the rest, I mean, if you do know the Creator and you do trust them, then I think we can trust them to take care of us and to be good. And understanding that taking care of us does not mean that you can have a comfortable, easy existence. Again, it's promised that you're going to have trouble, right? And you're going to have more trouble if you follow this path, guaranteed, right? Because the world hates it. The world hates honesty. It hates light and love because darkness controls this world. And so you are not going to fit in, right? Which makes it all the more important that we support one another and that we hang together. For surely we will hang separately. But that we support one another and that we are kind and good to one another and don't argue about the little things, about, whether it's this or whether it's that, right? If we know we're being lied to by someone else, we should support one another. And that's one of the things I love the most about this community is how we care for one another, taking care of getting Dawn a phone and taking care of Rose and getting her a place to stay. This is the kind of stuff. You guys, helped me get a computer so I could do this. I love that. And again, I genuinely love you guys. I haven't met most of you, in fact, in person. But we communicate offline. And just the little things, right? You guys sending me emails that are encouraging or just asking for a sticker, right? I'll send you a sticker. By the way, send another big batch of them out this week. If you don't get it in the next few days, if you haven't gotten it, just email me again. There's a chance it got kind of lost in the shuffle, but I keep track of where they go. And so hopefully, if you ask for that, you can get one. I still have more. If you want one, just send me an email, unintended.consequences3@gmail.com. Just make sure to give me your mailing address, and I will send you out some I do not consent stickers. But anyway, just that sort of stuff, just keeping in contact and passing ideas back and forth like Mark Bloom has done, like Cammie has done, just passing stuff back and forth. I'm very busy. I have a job that requires a lot of me to stay focused on that, so I can't get a lot done during the day. But in the off times, right, I spend, again, somewhere minimum 10 to 15, 20 hours a week doing this, just preparing for it, doing all the stuff that's necessary. And I've had people ask, can you make what's on the screen match what you're saying? Yeah, I mean, yes, if I can do it full time, I'd love to do that, right? So if you guys want to support that, hey, super great, right? I've been talking back and forth about different ways to do value-added stuff. So if people do want to support it, so I can spend more time doing this and less time doing the other thing because I'm an independent contractor. So I could adjust my schedule a little bit, like how to do that. And, most people aren't fond of giving money to the man, right, through different things like Patreon and that sort of stuff, try to keep their fingers out of the pie. But looking at different things and getting some ideas. Jason Gay had some terrific ideas for me this week. So because I feel awkward about, I don't like asking, not trying to ask people for money or get in their pocket or anything, but I do give them the opportunity if they want to support it. I had learned long ago that if you say no to people when they want to help, you're robbing them of the opportunity to do something good for their own soul, which is to give a gift, right? It is better to give than receive. And I know that I feel amazing when I'm able to give something to somebody else, especially when it's a sacrifice to me. I really mean it. And if they refuse that gift, then it steals from me the opportunity to do that. And so I can't, in good conscience, steal from other people the opportunity if that's what they want to do. I can't take that from them and be just so proud that, no, I can't take it. Again, it's awkward for me because I feel like the intention of this, again, is to offer a gift. And so it feels weird to have people want to, buy it or whatever. It just feels weird. Anyway, so I don't mean to get too sidetracked there, but the idea is, sure, I'd love to move away from what I'm doing there and spend more time doing this because I love the time that I spend with you guys, right? But this is probably what you're going to see me focus more on is people keep asking, well, what can we do, right? All this stuff out there is so bad. What can we do? And talking to a longtime friend of mine last night, and he had, he'd gotten triggered to the keyword frazzle drip. If you know what that is, your stomach just took a dive. And if you don't, I don't know if I want to recommend that you look it up or not. It is the stuff of nightmares. And he just was like, he was stunned and just going, I am very, very disappointed in humanity right now. I'm like, yeah, dude, I know. Why do you think I have such a dark sense of humor? I've been looking at this stuff for, 3 decades or more, and coming up on 4 decades of it. And so it's, but some of the information that's getting out now is, ridiculous. And so, again, the instinct is anger, right? That you want to protect the innocent, and you want to give some comeuppance to those who deserve it. And it is difficult, I think, to let go and say, and to trust that, vengeance is mine, says the Lord. Well, yeah, but let me set them on fire, please. Can I just chop their naughty bits off with it? Can I do that? It would make us feel good. But again, hate cannot defeat hate, and only light can drive out darkness. And so it is, I think, incumbent upon us. This, again, it's the way I see it. You can choose for yourself. But from my perspective, the most powerful thing in the universe is love. And if we can stay within that and respond in a way that is centered in love, and respond appropriately, both to ourselves and to others, especially to those who perhaps do not, and especially for sure do not deserve it. And that changes things. And if we can begin to manifest that consciously, what a world might that be? I think I had more to say, but I think I want to leave it kind of there. Let me speak on another couple of things. If you joined us for Secrets of Saturn this last Wednesday with, again, Jason Lindgren, Wayne McCrory, and Crow 777, we had an idea when we were talking about mesmerism and a lot of the full spectrum programming that includes subliminal programming and subliminal information that's often hidden within television programming. And we had talked about things that we had all seen. It seemed pretty legitimate and seemed to vet out pretty well. A gal who had several years ago taken a photograph. She took a selfie and had the television screen was in the background, and she accidentally caught a single frame of a white screen with the black letters "kill," and so I think we said in the episode it was murder, but I believe it was kill. In retrospect, looked it up afterwards. It was kill. And we were interested to know what might have been before and after. And so we began talking about this and thought, well, the more people we can talk into doing this, we know that the cabal loves their dates. They love they love doing things according to the sky clock as well. And so there's an event coming up that's consistent. It's an anniversary, if you will, in September, the day after the 10th. That we figured is probably a good time to try, and maybe newscasts or that sort of thing, but also let your gut tell you, right? Let your heart be your guide, and if you get an inspiration, go for it. But to take a variety of pictures of the television screen on that day specifically, and then if you get anything interesting, then I'm gonna set up a cloud thing, probably Dropbox, and so you can put the stuff there with a submission form. It'll tell us what kind of camera, what you were watching, what the conditions were, that sort of stuff, so we can better understand. But we have a feeling like we might catch some interesting things. Of course, it could be done at any time, and you might want to practice prior to that. But we're going to give instructions on exactly how to approach it and the best way to do this. But keep that in mind. We have a little bit of time coming up, and we kind of get some stuff going for that. And then the other idea, of course, is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I'm not the first one or the only one, and I think it's already been done with some interesting results. But because specifically of the nature of this community and what's going on here, that is the idea to intentionally, specifically manifest between us at the same time that we get as many people as we can to manifest a very specific thought, and we all focus on it at the same time and see what we can accomplish in that sense. And if it works, and I expect that it will, even better than we might think, perhaps we make a regular thing. I know Dawn, informally hip in the chat, does a similar thing with a women's group and on the regular, and that they have great results. I'd like to, again, just dramatically increase that if possible and get the reach as far out. I'm just a tiny little channel, and just one bald guy. But the more reach that we can get, again, indication that how much, right, YouTube lies. I was looking at some analytics on the YouTube side. It said specifically that during a certain period of time, it was like 38,000 individual hits. And then when I went to the AdSense, which is also by YouTube, but they're looking at it from a financial aspect, during that same period of time, they had 78,000 individual hits, so more than twice as much, where that YouTube was cutting the numbers, right, to lie about it. Just interesting stuff. Anyway, so we don't trust those guys, and we shouldn't, and I think that's part of the point. But again, be thinking about that. I'm certainly giving it some very serious consideration, some thought, and talking to some people who I know and trust, and to see what might be the best thing. Again, just probably a single word, whether that's love. But I want something that we could manifest. Right. One of the things for example, that I begin to see the value of is that Rose 777 and I do the PoppyCock report every Tuesday and Thursday morning on her channel, and it's a word, of course, that is anachronistic. It's archaic, and something that Crow 777 used to not say bullshit, right? Just poppycock, make it family friendly. And so ultimately we began doing the poppycock report, which is just, it's an hour long in the morning, like a morning radio show where we kind of just look at the absurdities in the news. We're taking a lighthearted approach to it rather than being all gloom and doom. But what's interesting is, again, I haven't heard or seen that word in print for most of my life, other than those of us who are nerds and just like words. All of a sudden, I noticed in the last 2 months or so, it has shown up all over the place. It's been in mainstream news. I've seen it in numerous places. People using the word poppycock. It begins to manifest itself. So the power of the collective consciousness is the thing. And am I saying that Rose and I did it? No, I'm just saying it's. We may have been on the receiving end of it, right, with the antenna. But certainly it's something that we see is that all of a sudden, for seemingly no other reason, poppycock begins to show up over and over. So that's the kind of thing that we're looking for, a very specific idea that we just, if you will, we're going to make our own positive egregore and stick it out there in the world and see if we can get that to manifest. So there we go. Now we're at the top of the hour, or a little bit past. Have just a moment here. I will take a look back through the chat real quick. I apologize. I haven't had really a moment to look at it. I've been kind of lost in thought today. Trying to do my best to explain how to manifest and express love in the world around you that is full of hatred and full of lies, knowing by saying that you're self-identifying to the world as being different, right? So like the invasion of the body snatchers, the pod people, right? They're gonna point you out because they're gonna see that you're you're different, right? You're not one of them. You're not a zombie. What do we got here? Let me shift this over, see if I can see it a little bit more bigly. Let's see. Take a look here through the chat. Okay. Let's see. What are you looking for to manifest there, Nemo? Nemo sends me. He does a reverse podcast. Hard to explain, but it's pretty cool. Okay, yes. Talking about the flicker rate. Yes, that's from Secret of Saturn. Fight Club. Yes. P900. Yes, that's exactly where most of us are into it. It seems like a good idea. Now I think we can capture some very interesting things. It was rude to never accept a gift. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not even rude is a word, but I think it robs the other person of the gift of giving, because it does something good for the spirit to give of yourself without any expectation in return. Okay, let's see. Just kind of zooming up here. I just see you guys chatting amongst each other, which is awesome. I love, again, the community. Let me zip down to the bottom here if you got any questions, anything. What are you looking for to type into? What am I missing here on manifesting? So, yes, bigly is a word. Love and light. What are we manifesting? You guys say, Nemo, you said type it into the search bar. What are we looking for? Crow 777. we're going to manifest that, get people to listen to Crow. I mean, again, I'd like to be pretty specific about what it is that we're doing with very much intent and sort of not, not goofy. But yeah, that's what I'd like to see, is something very specific and such that we would know for sure if we saw it appear, for example, in the news or something like that. Sue says, "PoppyCock." I love you, Sue. But yeah, something that would manifest, that we would know for sure, right, then when we see it. Clothes. Yeah, Mark wants to see me manifest clothes. Well, Mark, maybe you're on the right track. Today, I do actually have pajama bottoms on, because I almost opened up the camera for the keyboard and at the beginning of the stream, and I didn't want to give you guys, I didn't want to blind you. Pants. You guys are great, man. Baldini needs to manifest some pants, damn it. Oh, you guys are awesome. Change the direction of a hurricane. Well, you have a dead cat in a box? Well, Schrodinger would be happy. No, we just don't know. It's uncertain. Heisenberg also on that one, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. You pre-manifested. Yeah, there you go. Well done. So anyway, yeah, if you guys have any ideas, certainly reach out and let me know. All my contact information that you need to know is in the show description, the show notes. If you have any questions or anything at the very end here, I'll take that. Otherwise, I'll maybe just noodle a little bit on the way out. Give you guys a chance to chat amongst yourself. I'll try to, I usually do try to catch the stream, or at least the chat afterwards. It takes a few hours for it to post. So I have to wait before I can see what was said in the chat. Sorry about that. I don't have a way to manifest that for myself. But any case, guys, thanks again so much for being here. I hope that this made sense to you. It was a little bit obtuse and abstract this morning, not the kind of thing I normally do, but it just hit me really powerfully last night. This idea about manifesting love in the world, knowing that it is going to have consequences, both positive, that is, to manifest love, and if you want to say negative, it certainly is going to identify you as being different, and that may make you a target of some bad things. But again, if your heart is in the right spot, the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. So there is that. So pretty desperate for a good job. Any manifesting, so appreciated. Israel, I'll put you on my list this week of people to give positive intention to, and prayer, if you will. I'll keep that in mind. Thank you, Israel, for mentioning that. So where are you at? Where are you located at, Israel? Where do you need? Where do you need some thoughts sent? See, somebody's out there. Sometimes the chat stream doesn't post with video. That's weird. I mean, I know that it doesn't sometimes right afterwards. It has to process for whatever reason. So Proverbs, yeah, that'll be tomorrow morning. Let's see. SOS Paul, yeah. Okay. So, yeah. Okay. Well, again, thanks again, guys. Again, so delighted. I was looking for Israel. Thanks. Yeah. So tell me where you're at, and tell me, kind of if there's anything specific you can give me, and I might see if I actually, materially know somebody in that area or whatever can help you out. But definitely put you on my list and put up a petition for you. You're in Kansas, but ready to relocate. I may know some people in Kansas. Some of my dad's family is in the Wichita, El Dorado area. So, I don't know if you know where Virgil is, Kansas. My dad's family pretty much they were the only people that lived there for a long time. I love the tribe too, Winston. This is one of the best folks around. Okay, guys, I got to run off and spend time with Mama. because that's what I do. I kind of have this deal where as much time as I spend doing this, I make sure and spend that much focus time with her as well, so that she doesn't feel left out or abandoned, right, by my spending time with you guys. So I try to keep all that equal time, right? So it's something that I like to do. It's not, there's no hostility there or anything. Don't get the wrong idea. It's just, it's something I like to do to make sure that she feels that I spend time focusing on her as well. All right. So, again, thanks again, everybody, for being here with me today. And as you are every week, I appreciate it so much, and I appreciate the kind words in between. If you should join me tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock Pacific time, and that is 10 o'clock on the East Coast in the U.S., for Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World. So we take a look deeper in the book of Proverbs. And then at 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening, we'll kind of pick up on the point 5 episode of Sola Scriptura. It is Wayne's week off, and so I'll just kind of fill in for him and put some stuff in there. We'll answer some questions and talk amongst ourselves. And so with that, guys, have a great day.